Café and Networking Podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Today we talked with Jason Cercone, and he's joining us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the United States. Jason Cercone is a personal brand architect, podcast guesting strategist, author, voiceover talent, an experienced podcaster as podcast host at Evolution of Brand. So Jason, how to take brands from unknown to undeniable with effective podcast guesting strategies?
Well, that is a loaded question, Tom. I'll tell you, I put together a program basically looking at what a lot of agencies were doing in regards to preparing their clients to be on podcasts. And I know this from two different angles, from working with agencies in regards to finding shows for my clients, but also the people they're referring to me. Right. And I realized there was a little bit of a gap in regards to what people knew and how prepared they were to go on podcasts and really make the impact that they need to make in order for it to be successful. You could go on podcasts left and right all day long, but if they're not targeted, if they don't fit your objectives, right, if you don't use them properly, like with what you're doing, Tom, networking is one of the keys to this whole process. And if you don't keep that front of mind, you're really not going to achieve much, because you need to have a collaborative mindset, and you need to be a valuable resource for podcasters. That's going to help put you in a position to where you're creating great content for the audience to listen to, but you're also beginning a very powerful relationship with that podcaster to where maybe they would choose to work with you. Right. Maybe they have people in their circle that need exactly what you're selling. If you do a great job and bring value to their podcast so they can continue to grow their audience through their valuable content, right, the likelihood of them referring you to others and thus giving you more opportunities to grow is far greater. So what I've built is a system that really blows that out of the water. It really gives people this opportunity to experience podcast guesting on a different level. And because of that, they take their brand from unknown to undeniable.
I have to agree with you. One of the reasons that I invited you, exactly that. Become a podcaster, you're a podcaster. I have 3 podcasts. This is one of 3, and I've been podcasting and on internet radio for years. But what I found is that people aren't prepared. And to your point of agencies and PR companies and marketing agencies, they don't realize what you just said. Yeah. They're looking at content in a text form. They're not looking at a person. They're not looking at the communication. Once you're on a podcast, it's you. It's obviously what you say, but it becomes you.
Sure. You have to be a good storyteller. You have to be compelling. You have to be engaging. You have to be in a position to build some chemistry with that host so you can have this organic conversation that captivates a listener. So when they tune in, not only do they come in with the assumption that they're going to learn something, but they can also say, this is really good. I want to listen to this. This is a vehicle that's going to not only teach me something, but entertain me at the same time. Right. And when you think of other mediums that you consume, whether it be social media content, television, movies, books, right, if it's not engaging, do you really buy into it? No. Typically, if it's a bad movie, you walk out. If it's a television show, you yell at your friend for recommending it to you. This is terrible.
Somewhere else, right?
Yeah. And podcasts the same way. If you're consuming good content, you want to be invested in it. And if you don't come to the show as a guest with value, right, and if you're a host on the other side, if you don't set that guest up to succeed by building a show format that caters to their expertise and really lets their expertise shine through, it doesn't make for the best content. Therefore, people don't listen. So that's always something. Podcasters want to grow. That's how you grow. Do everything in your power to create captivating content so listeners stay tuned in, and then they start recommending it to others.
And really you have to understand both sides of the same coin. And as a podcaster, you're talking to guests, I would say daily, but frequently. Yes. And so you really get to see the impact of what you just say from developing a guesting strategy.
No doubt.
And back to the other side of the coin, as a guest, then you can apply your same principles back to being a guest. And what we do, the more we see both sides of the same coin, better for both sides. Many people just focus on the guesting part. They really don't understand what the other side of the microphone looks like.
Yeah, and that's one of the big values of what I do and the partnerships I form. I'm bringing almost 10 years of podcasting experience to the relationship. So I have a podcaster's perspective.
Right.
So my approach is not just to start firing your name at a bunch of different podcasts, which I think is that's the approach of a lot of agencies and a lot of people that are even doing it themselves.
Right.
They're just going to try to get on as many shows as possible because the more the merrier, right?
Right.
Wrong. It's all about
right is wrong. I agree.
Yeah, right. Like you want to be, I mean, the more the merrier if the show is right.
Right.
But if you're just firing your name at random podcasts and not putting a strategy behind it, it's really not going to succeed. So I go as far as contacting podcasts directly and saying, listen, I'd like to get to know you and your show a little bit more. So as I bring people into my system and my program, if they're a fit, I can send them your way and your time isn't wasted because podcasters get inundated with pitches and presentations all the time.
Well,
and some of them have no relevancy.
You've tried them on. You say, hey, this literally is a fit because I've tried it on, right?
Sure. Exactly. Exactly. It makes much more sense. It shows that there is value in the entire presentation for the host, for the producers, for the guests. Like everybody is invested in the right way. And at the end of the day, what comes from that is valuable content that the world can consume.
Right.
But now there's also a lucrative relationship in the beginning stages, and who knows where that can go.
Well, I'm a believer that the beginning stages lead to, because a podcast episode that's up on the web is forever.
Exactly right.
The search engine spec, it's sort of like having a book out there. It's forever. Yep. Until you take your podcast down, it's there.
That's right.
It's multiplied. And, you say, well, I don't want it anymore. Well, you got to work really hard to get it out, but it's there. It becomes part of your legacy.
And I mean, I'll tell you, Tom, this is the first time this has happened. I was adding some new guest appearances to my page on my website because I promote every episode that I'm a guest on. And there's many reasons for that, which we can talk about if you'd like. But I was going through just yesterday as we sit and record today, and one of them had vanished. A show actually got taken down. That was the first time that had happened. So that shows that even when people, they walk away from their show way too soon because of a number of different reasons. And that's a conversation for another day in regards to podcasts and as long as people are invested in them and doing them. But the shelf life is huge. And even
but that's back to your strategy. Be on
Exactly.
podcasts that tend to be there.
Exactly.
It's not
People,
an
even when they
adventure.
stop producing, they leave the old ones out there.
It's not an adventure. So, to be on a podcast that's going to be there or has been there, that's an art in itself.
Absolutely.
Well,
right.
anyway, I'm a believer of niche networking, and this is part of what we're doing, and niche marketing, and I believe that podcasting is networking. And,
for sure.
And it shows me, and it is. So I want to thank you for being here, for sharing, and another opportunity for networking. Now, how can our listeners find you?
Best way to connect with me, head over to my website, jasoncercone.com. I've got a lot of great free resources there, and you can set up a free discovery call so we can talk about this a little bit more. I'd love to hear your goals and expectations of what you want from your brand, and we can see if it fits into the podcast guesting space. And also find me on TikTok, find me on Instagram, all the social media accounts. You can find me at Jason Cercone.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Jason.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. And again, for our audience, it's Jason Cercone. It's Jason, the last name Cercone. Jason Cercone everywhere on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. And jasoncercone.com, you'll find him there. Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus Semi Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at their site, www.focusmi.com. Thanks for listening until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.